Hi, I'm Kaden, here with my brother,
Cal,
and you're watching Eating W's.
eat the W.
That's a W. Let's eat one. Let's eat one. That's a W.
On today's episode of Eating W's, we have our first reaction video of the 2023 NFL season with none other than, of course, our Week 1 reaction. So just a quick rundown of how the reaction videos are going to go today and throughout the rest of the year. Each one will open with a little bit of news. We're going to kind of get away from the more traditional news like your extensions, your signings, your trades. The huge ones and the huge name ones we'll still talk about. But mostly we're going to talk about some of the bigger injuries that happened during the prior season, or prior week rather. And then after that, the games that we're going to talk about each week are going to be the Vikings and Packers game, respectfully. And then also, we are going to talk about each of our game of the week that we will pick before the episode starts each week. And then we're going to try to it'll vary a little bit, of course, just depending on how weeks fall, bye weeks, which games are good, which games are bad. But for the most part, that is what we're going to run with. So let's get right into it, starting with 3 big-time season-ending injuries. Starting in Cleveland, we got the Browns starting right tackle, Jack Conklin, will be out for the season with a torn ACL. And then keeping it in the AFC North with the Baltimore Ravens, their running back, J.K. Dobbins, will miss the entirety of the season with a torn Achilles. And then finishing in the AFC, we of course have Aaron Rodgers, who just last night during Monday Night Football also tore his Achilles about 4 plays into the game. So really a bummer to see across the board there, but the biggest bummer has got to be for Rodgers. He finally got his way into New York. All of the Jets fans are finally all in on him, and he got 1 pass attempt, which wasn't even a completion. So
No, it was an incomplete pass, and he was pressured on every play that he played, so that offensive line was not holding up at all. And, it's really too bad. I wanted that first-round pick. I did. I wanted the first-round pick. It'll now obviously be a second-round pick because he did not play 65% of the snaps, but yeah,
4 out of an entire season is pretty far from 65.
Yeah, we got close.
Really pushing it, but not quite there. Now we are going to jump into our games, and as I mentioned earlier, we will start with the Minnesota Vikings hosting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for Week 1, and sadly losing by the score of Bucks with 20, Vikings with 17. Now, I never really talked about it much, but I hate when teams don't play their starters at all during the preseason. It is the point of the preseason. You cannot go a whole year and then expect to jump back into live action football without skipping a beat. It just does not happen. Teams look rusty, players look sloppy, and that is what happened. The Vikings had 3 first half turnovers, all 3 of them on the Bucs side of the field, 2 of them in the red zone, and that is just the definition of sloppy football right there. The fact that we only lost by 3 this game is a miracle in itself. This probably should have been a blowout level score, but we were facing a lower level opponent. The second half looked pretty good. Bad ending, 2 3-and-outs in a row to end the game. You can't have stuff like that. We definitely showed some flashes. I'm not worried about this game. It's definitely a bummer to have to watch, a bummer to lose the home opener. But it doesn't worry me. I think we finally got all the rust off, and now we're going to be able to move on from this tragic start to the 2023 NFL season.
Yeah, it was a very sloppy game for the Vikings. I saw a good part of it on Red Zone, and those 3 early turnovers, those are killers for you. And when you lose a turnover battle, you most of the time lose the game. So that's how it went for the Vikes this week.
You cannot have a -3 turnover differential and expect to win. Vikings look sloppy, but I must say the Bucs did actually look a little better than I expected, so good on them. So moving on to our second game of the week, which is of course, as I mentioned, now the Green Bay Packers game. The Green Bay Packers went on the road into Chicago and defeated the Bears by a score of 38-20, which is ironically close for how this game played. The Bears got a couple of garbage time touchdowns, I believe, which it's kind of funny that an 18-point differential is closer than it seems, but the Packers just absolutely dominated, I must say, which the Bears didn't look great by any means. Justin Fields was running for his life the entire game, of course, but the Packers just looked better. I mean, they really did. I was impressed with how Jordan Love played. I want to say he had a 3-touchdown game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
They went in there without Christian Watson, and the offense was still able to perform well. The defense, of course, held their own against Justin Fields. Justin Fields got a few pretty good magician-type runs on you, but for the most part, you were able to stand your ground.
You know.
I'll give it to the Packers. They played well in this one.
He's going to get some of those every once in a while, but I really like how our defense played. I think our defense played outstanding and was able to contain Justin Fields for most of the game. And one other thing that I really liked was Romeo Doubs. I think he showed that he can be our number one receiver even without Christian Watson. He only had a few catches for about 36 yards, but he had 2 touchdowns. And that's the important thing, is when your guys can score touchdowns. And it doesn't really matter about how many yards you get. It's all about scoring touchdowns.
That is in reference to Justin Jefferson, who had 160 yards but no touchdowns. Giving me a little crap there. But yeah, it was impressive by Romeo Doubs because he was also soaking up double teams that entire games and letting some of the other Packers player on the field kind of show what they can do. So good stuff by the Packers. Now moving on to my game of the week for this week. Probably picked a little bit of a shocker, but I have the Philadelphia Eagles going into New England and beating the Patriots by a score of 25-20. And why this was the game of the week for me is because it was kind of a tale of two teams. Tale of two halves, I should say, more than anything. I got there eventually. It was a little bit of a struggle, but the Philadelphia Eagles came out in the first quarter, more than the first half even, absolutely dominated and got out into a 16-0 lead after a pick six by Darius Slay Jr. But then the New England Patriots were able to kind of set themselves and really turn it around and put themselves on a comeback trail. And without a kind of sloppy final drive to end the game, the Patriots had a good chance to go in there and win that. But nonetheless, the Eagles did pick up the win in this one. Really why I like this game, though, was the performance of rookie cornerback Christian Gonzalez. He played like an absolute baller. He went against some really good wide receivers there in Philadelphia, and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and was locked up on A.J. Brown pretty much the entire game and truly locked him down, in my opinion. He was all over the field making pass breakups and tackles, and I just love to see that from a rookie corner, because it's a tough position to adjust to.
Yeah, he did. He held him just a few catches for, I think he had about 36 or so yards, but no touchdowns. And, that's a really big key stat to keep him from scoring. And then I really liked how the Patriots were able to come back and play, make this a game. That shows that they still have fight, and Belichick still shows that Belichick still has it in his football mind to be able to take any team really and make them competitive. And I really thought that was a catch at the end of the game there, that 4th down play.
Yeah, it was
the Keyshawn boot. I thought that was a catch.
It was close.
It was ruled incomplete, which ended the comeback attempt, but that's just how it goes sometimes.
I would say sometimes it just runs through the rest. But yeah, Keyshawn Butte, the rookie out of LSU, played really well, and Kendrick Bourne kind of proved himself as a wide receiver one for the Pats. So good stuff all around. And then finally, we have a challenge game of the week, which is probably the actual game of the week all around. We have the Miami Dolphins going into Los Angeles and beating the Chargers by a score of 36-34. And the definition of a shootout, because both of these teams played lights out. A lot of these past games, we were talking about sloppy play, and a lot of the teams overall in week one had a lot of sloppy plays. But neither of these teams had sloppy plays. This was an absolute shootout. They were both balling. The passing game was nearly unstoppable, and somehow the running game was just as good. It was just an amazing game. If you haven't went and watched the highlights, go do it. Tyreek Hill had over 200 yards, and I want to say 2 touchdowns. Justin Herbert was slinging the ball around. Austin Eckler put up over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Just great play across the board in this game, and at the end of it, the Dolphins come out as the better team, so good for them.
Yeah, and Tua had over 400 passing yards, which is one of the most passing yards to open a season in NFL history. I think he's third on the list with 466 yards. So near opening day record.
And say, I knew he was near 500. I
Yeah,
wasn't sure where exactly.
and he got the last touchdown that Tyreek Hill to put him ahead, and with just a few seconds left, he hit him on a fade route in the back of the end zone.
Yeah, it was a beautiful game to say the least, and a sloppy but still beautiful week 1 in general, because of course it's beautiful. It was week 1 of the football season. So now we will be looking on to week 2. Make sure to stay tuned in till our next episode, which will come out tomorrow morning, where we talk about our week 2 predictions. But until then, don't forget
to eat the W.